Michael Landau, Chairman of MAP International. MAP International is currently building an electronic financial infrastructure program in partnership with the government of Uganda, whereby we are enabling kind of the citizens who are previously unbankable because of their lack of identification, and we are incorporating the unbanked population by using our biometric systems, and then integrating that information into a banking platform and producing ID cards and bank cards and enabling the previously unbanked to become part of a formal sector. And along with our relationship with the government, we are now building out a full banking infrastructure in the country, which includes mobile banking, point-of-sale machines, online computer banking and ATM machines, and creating a rather holistic integrated solution for the financial sector in Uganda. Uganda is a country with 32 million people and counting. According to the statistics, which are very difficult to come by, good statistics in many of these developing countries, there's some 2 million bank accounts in Uganda, of which they don't know how many unique users have those bank accounts. So assuming that there's a 50% of unique users, or even if you keep the 2 million, less than 10% of people in Uganda, according to statistics that we have actual bank accounts. And of those bank accounts, very few people have any form of electronic banking. So the vast majority, over 90% of the people don't have bank accounts. The primary reason why they don't have bank accounts is because the people don't have a KYC identification, which means know your customer. They don't have what President Museveni refers to as bankable identity. We started our initial discussions with the government of Uganda to try and analyze the problems and see, if we'd be able to come up with some solutions for them some 2.5 years ago. It took a fair amount of time until we were able to clearly define the concepts, cultivate the right relationships, close the agreements with the government. We've created a public-private partnership with the government, because the governments in many of these developing countries don't have the sort of resources that are necessary, that are required to invest to create these sorts of holistic solutions for the country. So that all takes a fair amount of time until everything is put into place. We went live back in, I would say, October, November, and since then we've enrolled close to 40,000 customers, from the post bank into our system. We have ATM machines that are operational, point-of-sale machines that are operational. Our mobile banking platform is operational. We're just not marketing it yet at this point. So it's from a perspective of a deployment of a solution, it's going extremely quickly from a developing world perspective, considering that 2.5 years ago I'd visited Uganda once. We didn't even understand the problems. From a New York perspective of wanting things to happen tomorrow, it's going much slower than I would like it to go. But I think from an overall perspective, it's moving along extremely well. We're coming across logistical issues, communication problems, and which we overcome. We work with them, we understand the problems, we overcome the problems. And the fact that we are private sector, and we've made a very significant investment of our own money into ensuring that the system is going to work, and we're not just taking grants from various entities, and if it works, it works, it doesn't, it doesn't. We've invested a lot of money of our own money. We're going to make sure that things work and that they move along as fast a pace as possible. But there are challenges when you're dealing in the developing world. It's a very difficult regulatory environment when you're dealing in banking and identifications, etc. So you need government support. But primarily, kind of what we've done with the government of Uganda is that we've partnered with the post bank in Uganda, and we have the exclusivity to operate the electronic financial infrastructure of that bank, which enables us to go ahead and make the investment to create a switch which allows us to do ATM machines and point-of-sale machines, integrate and the mobile banking, integrate the biometric identifications into the whole platform, which is very expensive. And now we know that for the course of the next X number of years, the customers are all going to be using our platform. So that's the form of our agreement, and then the agreement is going to, kind of evolve to do kind of other payments and incorporate what they refer to as SACCOs, which are we would understand them as credit unions in this country, but where you have groups of 500, 1,000, 5,000 people come together. Currently, those SACCOs are savings and credit cooperative organizations. Those entities are not well regulated or supervised in the country. It's not a good environment for people to save, because the money's not secure, the government can't give them any level of security. So part of our understanding with the government is that our solution will be added, that we will be including the SACCOs and providing a banking platform for those SACCOs to be able to integrate into our overall platform, which will enable somebody from a SACCO to now have a government guaranteed savings account. It'll enable somebody in a SACCO in a remote village to be able to save money and be able to go and travel from one place to another and have access to their money. They can use their card, their mobile phones, to be able to get access to their money even when they're not in the village. Our system enables somebody in the city to transfer money out to the remote areas so they don't need to travel with large wads of cash on them. It enables a teacher who currently, has to travel for 2 days to go to collect their cash. And if it's a young lady, till she collects a lot of, 70% of what it is that she's supposed to get because of the evolution of corruption and fraud that flows from the various cash distribution points until she gets it. And unfortunately, many of these people then get abused at the last end of the mile. So that's the person who will get our card. She's got no real identification today. We give her an identification, we give her a bank account, and we give her the ability to now be paid on time, save her money, have the government guarantee her money, be able to use her cellular phone to transfer money to her friend or to her mother, whatever she may be, or to pay her school fees for her kids so she doesn't need to go walk for another day or two and then stand in line for a couple of days. These are experiences that people have in these developing countries. I don't want to say that there's an advantage one over another, but we are pure private sector. It's not to say that we're not willing, now that we have a proven product, that we're not willing to take grants to be able to show how we can replicate our product in other places or develop new opportunities from within the platform that we've done. But if we would have been waiting to get a grant, most grant givers don't want to give grants just for an idea. They would like to say, okay, something real. So it becomes a major chicken and egg situation. We saw a good business opportunity for ourselves by being able to partner with the government, by providing them with a solution. We saw a business model, how we would be able to make a good return on our investment, and we just plowed ahead. We felt that by waiting for grants would just be, it's not what we're about. We're about creating. We're entrepreneurs. We're about creating value, creating wealth for ourselves, creating an enabling environment where the governments can transform the lives of the people in their country, which is a phenomenal double bottom line. People talk about the double bottom line, triple bottom line, shared value, corporate social responsibility. But for us to have the ability to work with governments and change the lives of people, have a good business model where we can make money, that's what drives us in order to go out and do what we do. My personal view is that there's a certain amount of aid which is required because otherwise people will just die if they don't get, the physical aid itself. Has just been giving cash has that been a successful system? Absolutely not, because the majority of the money doesn't end up going to the people that need it because of the corruption, the fraud, and the theft, because that goes on, within the system. And also, I think that the people who are, who are accountable to be delivering a lot of the products, don't have the same sort of accountability. I'm a major proponent of the public-private partnership, the idea that the private sector, we have skin in the game. We have accountability to our capital to ensure that the projects that we work on are going to be successful. We're also long-term thinkers. We're not looking at a return where this is, again, one of the distinctions. I'm not looking to insult any of the people who use the grant money. But, the people who look at working on the grants, they say, okay, we've got a grant for $1 million. Let's use the $1 million. We're saying, okay, we have an investment of $1 million. How can we ensure a return and maximize our return over the next 10 years, over the next 20 years? So the private sector is going to ensure the long-term sustainability of many of the projects that the aid money has been set up to fix. Now, there are certain aspects that the private sector can have involvement in, certain sectors that is going to be more difficult for the private sector to have involvement in. But the way we're setting up our operation is that there are certain areas which are core to our business, which are the banking products, and that's how we make our money. But because we're leveraging identification. Once we have an identification, a biometric identification on an individual, that identification can be used for multiple products. So it can be used for creating a health registry, it can be used for creating an election commission, it can be used for national ID, it can be used for lots of other purposes, some of which we can make money on, some of which we can't. But the more of those products that we can offer a government, the more productive we are and the more beneficial we are to the government. And ultimately, the more money we can then make on the products that we actually sell. So in that way, in terms of healthcare and education and being able to deliver healthcare and educational products and videos or games for kids, or whether it's distributing nutrition information of how people should eat and distributing it over the mobile phone, or creating health registries, some of them will make us money, some of them won't. But the fact that as an overall holistic package, we are in a position to make more money on our financial products, that's an incentive for us to be able to offer these other products and to offer the health and the healthcare registrations and to offer many of these other solutions that these governments desperately need. And being that they will be part of an integrated agreement with the governments, it enables the World Bank, who currently, let's say in a particular country, will give out a lot of money to people who need in rural areas. There's no accountability for the money as it goes and travels through the process. Our system will create transparency and accountability for the money. People will know now where the money went. You take emergency situations. You have a disaster and a refugee disaster, and you have 200,000 people who immediately need to get money or immediately need to get food. Well, we can now create an accountable system that the World Food Programme or UNICEF or Helping the Kids or wherever it is, that the people who are receiving the aid now get identified and now get a card, that will enable them to ensure that they personally get the money that they're supposed to get, or they get the bottle of water or the bottle of oil or the bag of rice that they're supposed to get. And now there's accountability kind of in the process. There's never been accountability, or very little accountability, both to the terms of the people who are distributing the money and to the people who are receiving the aid or the money, whatever the case may be. Solutions like ours, and obviously I'm looking to be promoting the MAP solution, is a holistic solution that goes to the core of identifying the people and providing a distribution network for whether it's data, and whether it's financial data, health data, whether it's voting data. Our solution is there to be able to enable the governments to help them transform the lives of the people and bring them into the 21st century, provide protections for the people, because the people exist once they are identified. Yes, I've had many discussions with people, whether it's at the World Bank or the IFC or USAID, DFID, and had the opportunity to speak to many presidents and prime ministers of countries. And all of them recognize that the old model needs to be adapted, and or a new model needs to be adopted and the old model adapted. There's a challenge today because there isn't as much money as was available, so they clearly need to be thinking in terms of new models. The concept of a PPP, of the public-private partnership, is something which it's reasonably new in the terms of being in the new lexicon of the development world. There are still some people, some older bureaucrats who have this I don't know exactly how to describe it. I don't want to say it's a fear or a loathing or a mistrust of the private sector, which definitely creates challenges in the world that we're looking to play in, because there are many obstructionists, so old-timers who have done things a certain way and they like the things to continue to go in the same way. Because if money is going to be directed to the private sector to create the transformation that is required, the people who are currently responsible for giving out the grants or for receiving the grants, and there's a bit of a revolving door, sometimes in some of these organizations, they're going to be quite threatened. Because, whenever anything traditional is changed, there's going to be a little bit of a threat to certain people. But I believe that the overall need to create sustainable models with limited amount of money are going to create an environment where the private sector is going to be much, much more involved. All of the agencies that we speak to today, the forward-thinking people, are very, very much focused on how to integrate the private sector. But the private sector, we're very transparent. We're here to make money. And we want to make money, and if we don't make money, we're not going to be able to provide our intellectual property and make our capital investments, because the same systems that I'm using and developing for the developing world, for using whether it's the biometrics or the mobile banking and all these solutions, would work very well in the United States, very well in Europe. There are many unbanked people in these environments, in these countries. The largest of banks in the world, are looking to provide solutions for all their credit card holders, how to integrate it with the mobile banking. So I could be spending my effort and working on convincing some of the largest banks here in America and around the world to work with us. But we're focusing our effort in the developing world because we see very good opportunity. There's two different sorts of frauds, as I understand it. And fraud and corruption, just to lump them together. But you've got theft corruption. Just to give you, an example. And again, I'm not looking to be insulting to the various developing world governments and to say that they're all fraudulent and everybody there is fraudulent. They're clearly not, and some very honest and a lot of very, very good people over there. But some of the challenges become that, when the Ministry of Finance transfers the money to the Ministry of Education, there are occasions where some of the money, and it goes, and the Ministry of Education converts that check into cash. That cash now has got to get distributed to the districts. And then the districts have got to then distribute the cash to the local parishes. Then the parishes have got to distribute it to the schoolmasters and to the principals in the school. So you can imagine how there could be situations where some people along that chain of the cash take their tithe, along the way. And so by the time the people who are supposed to receive their salary, that the 100% of the cash that was given up front to the ministry, there's only 80% left by the time it gets to the teacher at the bottom end. Now, these are the sort of situations that have been described to me as being very typical. It doesn't always happen in every single place, but clearly these are problems. And then when the young woman wants to collect her $80 left over from the 100 that was originally supposed to get, then the person who's supposed to give it to her very often will abuse the woman until he actually gives her the money, because he's got the power over the money. But in addition to that, there are also many, many ghost employees in the system, because there are no very good checks and balances. So that's one element of the corruption and the fraud, which MAP system will be able to provide a solution for. So the governments are very keen to because they'll save a lot of money, because of the people will get paid, directly, so the people will be happy. They'll get paid the amount that they're supposed to get paid. So they'll suddenly start finding that they're saving a lot of money from the time they send out their $1 million or whatever the number is from the top. That they'll find that $1 million, when they actually send it directly to the people, the people will get the money they're supposed to get, but there'll be a lot of employees that didn't really exist. So that's one level of corruption. There's another level of corruption, which is that you have to pay people to make things happen. And I haven't thought it through well enough to see can MAP solution come and help out in that situation. I don't know if we can solve every situation, but in terms of the corruption and the fraud and the lack of transparency and the abuse of payments, of government type payments to people, and the pensions, that not everybody gets all the pension that they're supposed to get because of the cash distribution, those are the sort of situations that MAP solution can provide a great benefit to developing world governments. When people aren't identified, they just don't exist. And there's a lot of discussion before you ask me the next question. What about the privacy rights, of the people? If the governments are going to have so much information about the people because they have their biometrics, they'll have their health information, and they'll have potentially access to some financial information. Currently, these people don't exist, so the government has ultimate power over these people. The more you enable individuals to become part of a formal society, the more freedom they have, the more economic success they have, and everybody recognizes that economic success creates an environment of stability and of peace. So it's very, very much in the best interests, of the countries themselves, that that they can have stability and peace. And it's in the interest of the developing world to be able to create an environment where people are happy, people, and that the people exist. And from a larger perspective, today we're dealing in an environment where there's very limited money available for an ODA, an overseas development assistance. So the challenge for the governments is to find ways to maximize the efficiency of the money that is being used. And I believe that for the donor countries, whether it's partnering through the World Bank or USAID or DFID or all these agencies, their ability to identify private sector companies that will have their own skin in the game and that have got their own agenda to ensure long-term sustainability of the projects, that there's the ability for these companies to leverage the donor money and convert equity to growth and create an environment where there'll be long-term success, is the way that governments need to be looking at their development money. Uganda is a very solid country. It's one of the fantastic success stories. It's referred to as the Tiger of Africa. So we know we can make an investment in the country. We know we can trust the country, and we know that the people in the country have got enough money that we can make a good living. Even if they're earning $70, $80, the efficiencies that we bring to them by their ability to earn 100% of their money, not stand in line before they have to go and pay their school fees or go and pay their other requirements. We know that it's worth it for them to pay a subscription fee, a monthly subscription fee. They're buying airtime anyway, so we can make our commission on the airtime. So we create our money out of creating efficiencies for the people. So we know we can go in and make money. The way that it's affected my investment work is that raising money for our company, we're a private company, and like all private companies, we need equity in order to be able to evolve our process. We're not in the public markets and raising public money. So raising money has been difficult for us, because of the crisis. People are far more careful in where they're looking to invest their money. But other than that, in terms of the need of the people that we're working with, they are, a little bit below the radar screen. In terms of, they don't have to worry about their mortgage, not being able to pay their mortgage. These people don't have mortgages. So the financial crisis as it's been affecting the various countries, I think the way it is going to affect us is in a positive way, because I think that the amount of money that's going to be available for these countries to partner with us with their own available resources to create solutions is going to be very limited. The donor countries are going to have a lot less money to go and provide the aid and just give blanket money. So I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise for private sector companies who are looking to do public-private partnerships, or I like to refer to them sometimes as tri-party public-private partnerships. And as much as there's a donor country that wants to give money and they want to make sure that their money is used well and it doesn't disappear, the donor countries want to receive money. They want it to go into long-term sustainable projects that are going to be successful for the people. And then there's the private sector, like MAP, that will be able to be the linchpin that will provide, the technology, the know-how, the private sector, in gumption to create the solutions that these countries need. So I think that from the perspective of private sector companies doing the business like I am doing, which is working at the bottom end, working for whether it's the bottom billion, the bottom 4 billion, but basically the people who are, earning the $2 a day, the $3 a day, are earning, certainly people who are in these less developed countries, that I think it's the current financial environment is going to focus the donors and focus the recipient countries into working more efficiently with a limited amount of money, and I believe that that'll actually kind of come out to our benefit. Microfinance has now been widely recognized by the world as being a major stimulant for local economies in developing countries. Muhammad Yunus with the Grameen has proven in Bangladesh and other places that when you give people small amounts of money, they can now take that. So they can, instead of having, I'll use the goat example, instead of having one little goat, they can borrow a little bit of money and get the two goats, produce the third and fourth and fifth goat, and now they've got money that they can now go and buy more fertilizer and grow more oranges or more mangoes, and it creates a multiplier effect in the rural areas. These people have also demonstrated that there's a good repayment, very strong repayment rate for these people who borrow the microfinance. The challenge of a microfinance in a country like Uganda and many other countries is Uganda, according to the statistics that we have, which again, I'm not going to vouch for the veracity and the authenticity of the statistics, but there's roughly 400,000 loans, microfinance loans in Uganda, which as a percentage of the 32 million plus people that live in Uganda is a minuscule amount, considering that the vast majority of the country, kind of live in poverty. So it's a shame that there aren't more. The question is, why are there not more microfinance loans? In addition, they don't know how many unique people have those 400,000 loans. Was it somebody who was clever enough to get 10 loans, 15 loans using different identities or going to different banks? So that's another one of the challenges. So, and generally the challenges of microfinance are how to get the money to the people, how do people apply for the money, and how do people repay the loans in an efficient manner. If you get a $100 loan and you need to repay $10 a month, to go and to travel to the nearest payment center, which can be, quite far away, can sometimes cost you $10 just to go and travel the 2 days it takes you to get there, and your opportunity cost of not working, and then the fact that when you're traveling, people know you're traveling with cash. So there's tremendous inefficiencies in the whole overall system. That was actually one of the requests that the government had of us in terms of creating a solution that we would be able to help build up the microfinance industry in the country. There's no shortage of money to be lent in the microfinance environment. The government themselves have got a lot of money available. IGOs, intergovernmental agencies have got money available to be able to give individuals the loans, and private sector have got a lot of money available. It's a very good business to give microfinance loans to people who work, and there's a very good statistics that people repay these loans. What our system does is allows people to be identified, so now they become part of a formal sector that people will know who they are, and that with the one fingerprint we can double check to see how many times have they taken loans out before, have they taken out the loan before in a different name. So that's level number one. So we can identify them when they have one of our cards. We can now facilitate, and we're enablers. We are not looking to be in the microfinance business. We are an enabler for the microfinance entities, whether it's the banks or the governments, the NGOs or IGOs. But we will now be able to facilitate the providing of a bank card. If you don't mind, I'll just whip out, kind of a copy of a card. This is an old card, but this is a card that now is a card that we provide to the people when they get identified, with a mag strip. And so now we know who they are. And that card now is the bank that's going to lend them the money, or the IGO, will now be able to give the $100 loan directly to that person. So first of all, that person received their money, and they received 100% of their money. Now when it comes to, so now you're able to get to a much larger crowd of people who can, a large number of the population will now be eligible to get a loan. And now the question is, how do they repay the loan? Well, part of the MAP system is to be able to provide point-of-sale machines, which are going to be distributed kind of all over the country, so that the people can, and the point-of-sale machines are going to be in the post banks, in the post offices. They're going to be in all these SACCOs. We're going to have many agents around the country who currently sell airtime. They're going to be our agents also. So you'll be able to go the same place where you buy your airtime. You'll be able to go to those people and repay your loan. So you don't need to walk for 2 days to be able to repay your loan. You don't have to wait until you have $20, $30. You've collected enough money that it's worthwhile. As you have a little bit of money, you'll be able to pay down your loan. So it becomes much, much more efficient for people to be able to pay down their loan. So from a holistic perspective, kind of the MAP solution is one that will enable the good effects of the microfinance, which is that it becomes a major stimulant and a growth multiplier in the economy. We are now enabling many, many more people, exponentially more people, to be able to become part of this very strong economic driver of growth in developing countries. Africa is a very much an untapped economy. When you've got close to 1 billion people, there's got to be tremendous opportunity over there. But one has to be careful. You've got to be careful what you invest, how you invest, and it's got to be done smartly. I'm a big believer in Africa, and I've made a major investment in Africa, and I believe that if other countries take up MAP, obviously, I think these economies are going to grow exponentially. Just using Uganda as an example, if we're able to take the $1 billion salary that they pay on a yearly basis, and that money is going to flow through a formal sector, through our system. It's going to go through the post bank to be able to pay all the salaries and the pensions, $1 billion. Currently, that $1 billion is going straight into the informal economy. When that money now starts to go into the formal economy, because it's going to go through a formal banking sector, and we're going to be providing lots of ways for people to use their money electronically, so 30, 40, who knows, maybe 50, 60% of that money ultimately is going to start sticking in the float in that formal economy. So it means that there's going to be $300, $400, $500 million a year and accumulating exponentially, that is going to be available to help these countries grow, build factories in rural areas. Instead of the mangoes rotting, they'll build a plant in the rural area to be able to make mango juice. So there's going to be tremendous opportunities as the population gets richer, as they have needs for processing. Africa has got tremendous opportunities. Uganda, for example, they've got some of the most fertile land in the world. So there's tremendous opportunities for growing things, and then for processing the things in the country that it's grown in. So, for example, whether it's coffee, whether it's mangoes, whether it's bananas, there are so many opportunities to grow things there. And then if you were to process, the processing is going to be much cheaper in Uganda than it is to do it elsewhere. The government will give grants, they'll give tax holidays to people. Salaries are lower than they are in other places in the world. So there are tremendous opportunities for people to invest. There's the AGOA agreement between the United States and Africa, which allows imports to the United States from Africa to come in duty-free. So you just got to have a little bit of faith. Anybody who wants me to help introduce them to the right people so that they can have the faith in the countries, or speak to me so that I can give them, kind of beyond, kind of this interview's confidence level, there are tremendous opportunities. I would strongly advise people against any form of corruption whatsoever, because it's just not necessary, and it muddies the waters in terms of the way people need to look at doing business over there. So they shouldn't think not to go because, they're just going to have to get involved in corruption and bribery, etc. It's not true. That should not be a reason why big corporates shouldn't go out there. Individuals who've got some, kind of extra money and want to feel that they want to do good, there's tremendous opportunity to make money and do good in Africa. Rwanda is very much a success story. They have a very strong focus on technology. They have a president who is extremely focused on driving his country forward. And that's a country that we're hoping to be working in, kind of in the short term. But that's clearly kind of a success story of taking a country that was at the below death's door and literally forcing a success. And so that's one country which I believe is a tremendous success. And there are other examples out there. There are tremendous opportunities, kind of in sub-Saharan Africa, of countries who have taken a more positive approach to the use of ICT. But I would say Rwanda is probably one of the most aggressive in that. I don't want to talk to many of the other countries because I just don't know enough about them. South Africa is clearly a leader in using technology. Our technology is developed primarily kind of out of South Africa. So they're clearly leaders in the space and they're doing things. But South Africa is a bit of a different story to many of the other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. So there's clearly a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of desire on the part of these countries to evolve and use technology as they move their countries into the 21st century. Imagine you're in a village on a Friday night and you get to your village, it's now 9 o'clock and your friend's grandmother is very sick and you need to call the doctor. The problem is that you go to your phone, you've got no money left on your phone. And you look for the guy with the green jacket, yellow jacket to buy the scratch-off card. You can't find him anywhere because he's already gone. He comes twice a week. He's not going to be there till Monday again. So currently, you hope your grandmother stays well until Monday morning. But now you say, what? We're part of the MAP system. We're a post-bank customer. We've actually got a whole mobile banking application. So what we'll do is, the first thing we'll do is to check the balance on the account. Now this system is a live system that operates throughout Uganda, but it's a demonstration, so the money is not real money it's not real cash, but it's a real system that's actually working through Uganda. So if the cellular service is no good in this room over here, this demonstration won't work. But the first thing we do is we get a balance on the account. So every transaction that we do, you have to check your, we have to put your PIN code in. So we put in our PIN code and we're going to check now, see if we have service, over here. If we do, we're going to have our balance is going to be able to come through. And now everybody's going to see how much money I have in my bank account. But as you can see, it's 70,198,000 and change in my bank account. It's roughly 2,000 shillings. It's roughly $35,000. So now we have money in the bank account. So now we're going to top up the phone. So we go to the buy prepaid. And we're going to put in our PIN code, and then we're going to select, kind of the primary bank account, because we can choose different bank accounts that we want to work with. So we're going to choose the primary account because that's what's programmed for now. And then we're going to pick, you see here, the primary savings credit, but we're going to pick the primary. Now we're going to select an amount of money. So it's 2,000 shillings to the dollar. How many shillings of airtime would you like to buy? 5,000 shillings. Okay, so we're going to do 5,000 shillings. And we sell we sell airtime for all the companies in Uganda. So you can choose MTN, UTL, Warid, or Zain. We're going to go with Zain, former Celtel, and now we're going to go and buy the 5,000 shillings of airtime. And you see Zain airtime, and we got the success, and now your balance went down to 193,000. Now you've got your 5,000 shillings of airtime. So now we're going to call the doctor, because now the doctor's on his way. So whilst we're waiting for the doctor, why don't we pay some bills? Right? The doctor's on his way. So what we have over here is we have beneficiaries. The way we have our system set up is that in order for people to pay their school fees, the school's got to be registered on our system. In order for people to pay their electricity bill, the electricity company has to be on our system. So I'm going to show you here some of the companies that are going to be registered on our system that me as a customer, I'm going to be able to pay those bills directly from my phone when I'm sitting kind of comfortably under my tree in my village, now waiting for the doctor to come. So I don't know, again, how much you can see or not, but the Kampala Junior High School, I've got one of my kids in the school, so now I can pay my school fees from my village without needing to go, and the school fees, and it's registered for you personally to that one. The Entebbe Electrical Company, the SACCO, the insurance company. Let's say you want to buy a national lottery ticket, which is not set up yet, but it's all part of the potential for the future. Or if you're a member of the Catholic Church and you want to pay your tithes, right, you can set up the Catholic Church. So now people can pay their bills directly, which is tied in for them personally. It's part of the system that we're creating. So now the doctor comes and we want to pay the doctor. So we're going to pay to you, which is to pay the doctor. Again, we always got to put in our code. And then we're going to pay the doctor. Okay, we'll give him 10,000 shillings. So we'll do 10,000. And now we're going to put in the number. The doctor will assume doesn't have a formal account on our system, meaning he's not a beneficiary, so he doesn't have his own code number. but we're going to just send it to his phone number. So I'm going to plug in the phone number of an actual account, and we're going to reference. We're going to put it Dr. Big Think. All right. So he's a big thinking doctor. So here, this is the screen that we're going to be sending, and now we're going to pay. So now the doctor will be over there, and he's about to give service to your grandmother. He says, "I want my money. I want to see that you paid me." So he's now going to have we're going to get an approval in a second. To you, payment successful. Big Think, 10,000 shillings to that amount, and you saw your balance goes down. So now the doctor, I don't have the other phone with me here, but the other phone that for the demonstration would now get an SMS that he received his 10,000 shillings, and he'll say, "Okay, now I'm going to treat your grandmother." Okay, so now, okay, we finished. The doctor leaves, and I can demonstrate what happens if you put the wrong PIN code in, if you put the wrong bank account number. But it'll show up invalid PIN, or it'll show up invalid bank account. So just like if you're on you want to transfer money in America, you send it to the wrong account. You've got to try and get it back. But if you put in your own PIN code or a non-existent banking number, you've got nothing to worry about. So now let's do a little statement. So we're going to, again, put in our PIN code, because you can't do any transactions without putting in a PIN code. So now we're going to get the statement, and the statement is going to show that when it pops up, it'll show 10,000 for Dr. Big Think, 5,000 for Zane, and then we get some mini statements. You get the last 5. So it's got the 10,000, the 5,000, and then yesterday I demonstrated somebody with a 1,250 and 35,000. So but the person now can get an update of what it is that he did, kind of on his phone, just by sitting in his little village. So imagine now all of these transactions would have taken. First of all, it took 1 hour between the doctor coming and doing and paying all your bills and everything. Current real world in Africa, probably have a dead grandmother and a week's worth of coming and going and moving. Mobile health is a big thing. Everybody's talking about how do you do mobile health. So we've developed a little program which will enable, once we have the biometric identification on an individual, we can create a protocol, a registry for that individual, so we can keep some basic information about them. So we can do a health summary. So whatever the protocol, this is a template that we created with the gender, the weight, the height, the BMI, and when I've got my next appointments. But it can also include the blood type, it can include inoculations, it can include whatever the protocol is that particular country would like to have. Now when we do the medical management, so remember, whatever's on the phone can be on a point-of-sale device, it can be on a mini computer which communicates. So this can be kind of in all the, this can be wherever there's a clinic or wherever there's a school, this information. This is just showing the holistic potential of, once we have developed this communication network, that it can be used for money, it can be used for health, it can be used for distributing anything. So here what we do is we have this personal information, so you can change your personal information. Add an appointment. So you can now kind of record when your appointment is, so that the doctor can download, or you can put in the doctor's appointment, and it can remind you when you have a doctor's appointment. So that way you don't miss your doctor's appointment. Add a prescription. So now you got your you need to take a new prescription, so it can add the prescription that you need to take. In terms of which medication, well, you can add a medication, say how often you need to take it, and it can be programmed to remind you to be able to take your medication. Because one of the big problems with AIDS drugs and all these different drugs, if you don't take the medication on time, you get sicker, and then the cost involved is just huge. And the cost involved in creating this sort of a system, and even giving phones, for free to the people who are the recipients of the medication, is cheaper to be able to monitor all of this electronically using the phones than it is to have the people not take their medication once, because then suddenly the level of medication and the sickness, etc. This is from a donor perspective. It's much cheaper for them to have a phone with a system like this that can record. So now we have, so you have the frequency and the type, etc. But then we can now record the medicine use, so that the person, when he takes his medication, it pops up and you just record the use. And there are even medications today that there's a special electronic coating on a medication that when you take the medication, it can communicate with your phone that you took your medication. Again, it's just the world, thank God, today is evolving to be an amazingly brilliant world where technology can really have a massive difference in people's lives, and it's no longer science fiction. It's real. It can really be done. Sorry, just one phone I said bring. I didn't say bring both phones. And then also we've developed a little program called the eDoctor. So you can have a quick diagnosis. So let's say somebody is on an AIDS program, so you can, kind of add a symptom. You can remove a symptom of what the person is sick, and you can then query the symptoms either to a live person at the other end, or this isn't an operating program. This is our demo program to show people what we have the potential to be able to create and what the potential is on the system. And then we have a healthcare service directory, which means that the phone can be triangulated. And if you're looking for your nearest clinic, they don't have a yellow pages. They don't have, but now, you can do it in such a way where the people can, their phone, they can say they need a doctor, and it can triangulate, where's the nearest doctor. That's for healthcare. But this same system can work for, okay, where's the nearest police station? Where's the nearest drugstore? Where's the nearest point of sale machine where somebody can go and get some cash? So the potential is huge of where this can all go. And because we are private sector and we're driven to make money, we're driven to make sure this is successful. We'll make our money on the financial products, and we need the assistance of the donors to enable us to provide the other services in order for us collectively to partner with the developing world governments to help them transform the lives of their citizens.